Welcome back to the Balancing Act podcast. I'm Andy Temte. On the Balancing Act, we talk to business leaders and industry experts to explore the balancing acts we play in our professional lives and learn about the events that put rocket boosters behind their career success. Today, we have Andrew Wittman joining us. Andrew is a United States Marine Corps infantry combat veteran, a former police officer, and federal agent. He's the author of 7 Secrets of Resilience for Parents, and his latest book is Inner Armor, Perpetual Resilience. So we're going to be talking about, big surprise, resilience today. So welcome to the show, Andrew.
Hey, thanks, Andy, for having me, man. I'm so pumped up to be here and be inside your airspace, man. I love being around high performers, and I love everything that you do, man. I've done a deep dive into you since we first got introduced to each other, and you're an amazing, just an amazing dude, and I love being in your airspace, brother.
Thanks for that. Now let's learn more about you. What's the elevator pitch version of your story, Andrew?
Yeah, I guess the elevator pitch, the quick down and dirty, right, is that I was the fat kid in high school, and I got bullied every day, and I couldn't fight back, not physically, not emotionally, and it really just completely wrecked my confidence. So I was living in this constant state of anxiety and fear, and one day I decided I don't want to live like that anymore, right? So I enlisted in the United States Marine Corps, infantry, not to prove anything to anyone, really, but to become who I wasn't yet, somebody who was disciplined and grounded and hopefully on the path to becoming someone who was unbreakable or unshakable, right? So that journey, Marine Corps, infantry, then a police officer, federal agent, I ended up as a private military contractor with the State Department. All those things, I realized that, just the toughness, quote, toughness wasn't enough, right? I needed something internal that would help me not to collapse under pressure. So that's what led me to build Inner Armor and to train this mental resilience, emotional discipline. And I stumbled on that it's really like a physical skill. It's the same way that I would go to the gym and train my body as to how to train my emotions and my mind instead of, living on autopilot. So, man, this journey really helped me grow up in a lot of ways, but I like to, grew up on every area of life, on all my 8 cylinders, I like to call it.
Nice. Well, first and foremost, thank you for your service and your really substantial service to the country and to the world. It's really cool. And I have about this many regrets. And for those that are listening on Apple, I'm holding up my hands, and I've got one hand, and I've got fewer regrets than the fingers in my hand. But that's one of them that I did not serve, and I thank you for that.
Well, thank you, brother. It was an early on decision I made, and really went against my family's, they didn't like it. And I mean, my parents they just didn't like it at all. And I mean, they came around, of course, they were proud of it after the fact, but I guess nobody really wants their kids to get in the line of fire. You know what I mean? I agree, no. I understand, Yeah.
Now that we have children, it's like, right. Whoa.
Wait a minute.
Yeah. So, Andrew, if you had to pick one event in your life that just put rocket boosters behind you, what would that be?
Yeah, I know this is going to kind of sound, crazy or whatever, but it was actually 9/11 was that accelerant, nitrous oxide, that launched everything, shifted everything in my that day. Just went crazy for me, because I was a uniformed officer at the United States Capitol. And I had been trained to become an agent, but I was still standing a post in uniform, and we didn't know if a slot was going to open up or not, and then 9/11 happened, and they, the special agent in charge was driving through the post at midnight. It was 2 a.m, and I was out there. It was 2 days after 9/11, and he slammed on the brakes. He's like, "Wittman, what are you doing here? I need every agent. You get off this post and to suit tomorrow and report at 7. I'm like, well, so he called the watch commander. I've got to find the one suit that I own, you know what I mean, to put it on. It's the one you wear to church every Sunday, that one, and show up to work. And I suddenly found myself with the highest performers in the world, right? So I'm the greatest military minds, the greatest political leaders, the greatest CEOs and musicians and artists. They're all coming in there, and I'm exposed to them. And then I see how they think, right? How do they process what's going on around them? How do they handle pressure? How do they stay composed in chaos? And it was really it was a laboratory for me. It was really going to college. It was worth more than my PhD, I always say, because I'm here in this pressure cooker. I mean, 9/11, it doesn't get any more pressure cooker than that, than the anthrax stuff. And I was talking about my kids the other day about the sniper in DC. I don't know if you remember that. The sniper was picking people off, getting at the gas station. He hit some middle school kids. That was crazy. It was like the year after 9/11, there was a sniper in DC. All right. So all on that pressure cooker of all that. So it helped me to upgrade my internal systems and to match what I was surrounded by. And I really went to school. I mean, I was just an observer of their behavior, and then how did they act and how did they think, because I got to see behind the scenes, right? The man behind the curtain thing. And so that really accelerated my career, probably more than anything, being at that level.
Yeah. Those experiential learning moments can be much, much more powerful than anything that we ever learn in the classroom. So today's show is all about mental resilience. I want to start with the basics. We talk a lot about mental resilience in the HR and management space as this must-have skill for today. But let's suppose that you're the speaker at a corporate offsite and you've got a team sitting right in front of you right now. How do you define mental resilience for them?
So my first thing I'm going to tell them, it's not a mindset, it's a trained system. And what resilience is, in my definition, is not the ability to bounce back, which is kind of what we all think of it as, but that's reactive, right? I don't want to wait till I get kicked in the teeth before I figure out how do I get up, and so it's the ability to take control of my thoughts, my feelings, right, my attitudes, opinions, and actions before, during, and even after pressure. But if I could do it before, especially under pressure, but I have to train it before, that I consistently have this response system instead of a reaction, right? So I call it the emotional reactor versus the first responder. So if I'm talking to a corporate, and this is what I always do in corporate when I'm in front of them, like imagine a 911 operator. Do they freak out when your call comes in? The house is on fire. Oh my gosh, the house is on fire. No, they're like very calmly asking questions. They're gathering information. And then they come up with a plan of response for the firefighters or the police officers or the EMS, right? So that's my mental resilience. I want to have this plan of response in place. I want to have emotional sovereignty. I want to have dominion over my mind and my emotions and my neuro loops, my nervous system. And so I'm not fighting my biology. I want to use my biology to help me instead of hurt me and making my decisions and habits. Yeah. Even especially when chaos hits, like you're going to fall back to your level of training. When chaos hits, you don't rise to the occasion.
That's a wonderful frame to put all of that in. Now, you've been on the battlefield. You've led security details from some of the most prominent leaders on the planet. Now, the average manager or leader, the average person off the street likely sees your experience and says, oh, wow, that's just next level. That's something that I'm never going to be able to attain. So what does it look like for the average manager at average company XYZ?
Yeah, that's something I have to deal with, is kind of close that gap, because like my wife's like, you're a freak of nature, but I'm not really. When you understand, you're a freak of nature. I'm like, no, I got to close the gap, right? Because so that's what this whole system is. If you can't repeat it, then I'm like, so Michael Jordan, like, who could do what Michael Jordan does, right? But I want to know, what's the mechanics of doing what he does. So that's what I did, is just figure out what the mechanics are. And I'll say this, I was trained for combat, but the human biology, our chemistry and our physiology behind stress, it does not change whether you're on the battlefield or you're like in Target with a screaming toddler, right? Or someone cuts you off in traffic. The biological and physiological responses are the same. So your system floods with adrenaline, and then cortisol dumps to like sustain that response, and then it hijacks your logic. And now, what do, right? We're acting in survival mode, right? So that's why this inner armor, it's for anybody. Anybody could do it. It's because I just break it down into baseline training, right? It's no different than learning your ABCs or learning how to drive the car. Like I use that example a lot when my kids, like you have kids, right? So you remember when they first learned how to drive this car, it was all herky jerky. And, within 3 weeks though, they're like, turn down for what, and you're like, hey, hands on the wheel, right? So, and then it goes to where the first time, do you remember, I was remembering, when my daughter was first driving the car, and I put her on the interstate, right? So she's kind of like, it's the interstate, it's, oh my gosh, right? And then, but we're driving to grandma's house for Thanksgiving. I'm making her do it because it's 6 hours on the interstate. And after an hour, she's bored out of her adolescent mind with like was stressful a few minutes ago is now beyond boring, and I have to do stuff to keep her awake, right? To keep her engaged, right? So this is what we do with resilience. I want to do it that exact same way. You're already doing it. So everybody thinks, well, that's Andrew's like next. I'm not. I'm the same as you. There's nothing uncommon to all mankind. It's how the machine works, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes absolute sense. I just love that this is trained. This can be a trained skill, and we're going to take a really quick commercial break, but we're going to get really deep into this inner armor resilience system when we get back. Hey everyone, I'd like to invite you to start your weekend with me on the Saturday Morning Muse podcast. I briefly explore topics that span leadership, business management, education, and personal continuous improvement. Subscribe to the Saturday Morning Muse podcast on your favorite podcast streaming app or visit andrewtemte.com for more information. And we're back with Andrew Wittman talking about mental resilience. Andrew, I'm an educator. I like to talk about skills and lifelong learning on the show. What is the inner armor resilience system that you introduce in your book? Is there a set of skills that strong mental resilience relies on that an individual needs to hone as part of a practice?
That's just such a great question. And I love that you're an educator because we do the same thing, right? Where it's about skills and repeating this. Like if we can't repeat it and other people can't duplicate it, I don't know, we're out of business. You know what I'm saying? I don't know what we're doing, right? If I'm not helping you with, right? So yeah, it's, I'll tell you the inner armor system, just give you a quick background on it. Was like, the Marine Corps was having issues with PTSD and suicide rates in the ranks, active duty. And so the chaplain of the Marine Corps called me and said the commandant had tasked him, the normal emotional support therapy, the pills, everything, nothing's moving the needle. Is there anything that you could do? And so this system is based on neuroscience. I call it biopsychology. How does the body, mind, and emotions work together? And this has been my obsession my whole life. How do I get the machine to work together and for my betterment instead of against each other for my detriment? Mm-hmm. Right. So what we know in neuroscience is that all the neurons that fire together wire together, right? So I'm going to build this superhighway. The first time we do one of these inner armor resilience drills, it's like you're in the brush with Crocodile Dundee with a machete, hacking away, trying to get through the brush. It's like there's snakes and stickers. I don't like doing it, And the second time is not much better, and then the third time gets easier. And by about a week into it, you have like a good old dirt track that you could run down it, right? And if you do this for a month or two, maybe even 3, if you stick with it, just like I said, like driving the car, you're going to have this neurological superhighway where you're just running down it automatically. Just like in a car, you're making hundreds of life and death decisions every second without even thinking about it, right? So that's what we want to do, is build this system so that it runs just like I'm driving the car. That's my, not second nature, it's my first nature. It's my default response. So what I'm going to do is take my biology, my chemistry, and my physiology, and all that stuff, all the neurons that are firing off, and it gets into the hormones. What are the, what hormones, is this flight or is this fear? Is this, am I confident? Is it, so I want to prep myself so that my default mode is it always helps me. So that's what the skill is. And it's just a matter of how does this work and how can I do it? And I'll say this, Andy, when I first start teaching this stuff, people are like, oh, I don't know if that could work or not. Like, you don't need to believe that it works. Just do the process and your belief will come after. It's like, I used to do personal training, right? So a weight loss client doesn't believe that when I'm telling them to do this, this fitness, this nutrition, this sleep cycle, that it'll work. I don't believe that'll work, but just do it for like 6 weeks. Don't look at the scale. And then your belief will catch up, right? So that's how I want to, I keep bringing this back to physical, because it really is a physical skill. And we have this kind of idea that it's some kind of soft skill, like you said with HR, it's a mental skill, or, something we can't put our arms around. So I teach physically, what can you do? So here's the 3 things, right? I make pre-decisions. I'm going to decide in advance, who am I? How do I act, and how do I respond? I have to I'm scripting in advance. I have to make this up in advance. I'm not winging it, because if you wing it, again, like I said, you're going to fall back to whatever you've done, whatever your habit is. If you're always freaking out in traffic, every time you freak out in traffic, you are practicing the habit of freaking out. And now you're just enforcing that superhighway. Does that make sense?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So I'm going to pre-decide, how do I want to act? Now, this is where every individual has to decide. I mean, it's, I can't tell you what to believe or how you should think or what you should think, right? But you have to decide for you, how do you want to act? You have to decide for you, who do you want to be? Who do you want to be under pressure? Well, whoever you want to be under pressure is who you have to be when there's not pressure. So the second thing is the identity statement. And this is what I talk. We do this this is the core of it's the anchor of everything resilience, right? So it's a one sentence that says who you are. If I asked you, Andy, who are you? Right? Or not you, because I don't want to put you on the spot, man, because, we got to make cool. No gotchas.
My purpose is to teach, coach, mentor, and hopefully inspire. I know exactly what it is.
Right. So that's your purpose, right? So if we took away, you couldn't coach or you couldn't teach or right. If you take every external away, who are you after that, whatever role you play, right? So a lot of times I'll deal with, I'm a Navy SEAL. I'm like, well, that's trouble as soon as you're out,
Right.
I'm a cop. I know cops, like up to 80% of them, this is insane, but it's so documented that 80% of police officers die within 3 years of retirement. And it's not from all the Waffle House food. It was from my badge and my gun are gone. My identity's gone.
Yeah.
We see with like big time football coaches, right? Joe Paterno was one, like 3 months after he quit, another Bear Bryant, so who am I? So my statement, I teach everyone how we got to make a statement of what are the internals that who I want to be. And I aspire, and who do I aspire to, right? So the thing, I'm a man of excellence who always keeps his word. So the thing that always maximum effort, I'm a man of excellence, whether I'm being a dad, whether I'm being a coach or a trainer, whether I'm being CEO of my company, whether I'm PTA or Little League volunteer, I'm a man of excellence and I aspire to always keep my word, which gives me permission to say no, right? Because if I always have to keep my word, I have to be very careful about who I give it to and when I give it, right? So, but if that's who I am, so my kids love this, by the way, when I said we're going to Disney World, because that meant we're going to Disney.
Right.
But they hated it when I said no Xbox for 3 weeks, because that means no Xbox for 3 weeks. There isn't any like, okay, after a week, okay, you learned no, if I said 3 weeks, that's what it's got to be. Right. So that's my identity. When we anchor in that one, it's very short, pithy, and we begin to run that neurological loop. I'm a man of excellence who always keeps his word. And you have to run it so much that when you stub your toe on the driveway, what comes out of your mouth is not like, what I call Home Alone cussing, right? Joe Pesci when he's like, super passion, for the kid, right? No, I'm a man of excellence who always keeps his word, right? It's got to be that into you, right? That's it's your cuss word or whatever, right? So when you get it to that point, that's who you are, no matter what circumstance you're in, no matter what the externals are. And so I'm going to keep running that. Now that's the third thing is what I call habit stacking. The first thing I want to stack on top of my identity statement, then I'm going to stack habits on top of that identity statement, which only take a few minutes a day. And I was mentioning to you and Nick, your son, how awesome the Remainders are, which is your band. And you guys, I know, right? It's so good. I want to tell you on many levels, it's good. Not only is it like super skillful music, it's good. It's good music. It's really good. Okay. I mean, but it evokes so much beneath just it's good music. So I've been using it as my workout track for like 2 weeks now, since I even ran into you and found out this thing existed. I'm like, so what it does, first it's nostalgia, right? Because it's what my kids call like peak humanity. It reminds me of a time when humans were at their best because of the style of music it is. Right. It's just, and then not because of the nostalgia, but here's what you guys do with your lyrics, and the music is very bright, kind of like Boston or, it's bright. It's not dark. I want to bang my head on this. It's like, I want to do good stuff. So it's very bright, but it facilitates introspection. So I was like, when I'm working out, I'm thinking about, because you're asking like in the New Man, you're asking about like to think introspectively. When I was younger, and I was just like doing all this stuff because it was what I was supposed to be doing and to get ahead and all, right? I have to, go back and think about that. And then like with Feel Something New, it's aspiring. So not only is it nostalgic, it's introspective, but now I have an aspiration to like go after your dreams. And it doesn't, it's just, get in the car with somebody who's going, which is another aspirational thing. The whole thing. So this, and here's the thing, this is a habit stack. While I'm listening to this is part of my new process, man. I'm where you've been my whole life, Andy, right? So, but while I'm working out, I'm stacking this habit, which is causing these neurons and this neurological pathways to go. And now the more I listen to these songs, the more I can't wait to listen to them again. Now I'm building that neuro pathway so that now I know when it's bench press time, because I just started the album, it feels something new. I'm all hyped up for bench press. Or by the time I'm on squats, it's, I'm down the list to new man, right? So I'm like, are you following this? So this is what this is resilience. I'm building this stack, and this is what everybody should be doing. Take these little things, and so now I'm not just going to the gym for my body, I'm going to the gym for my mind and my emotions, and I'm building my mental and emotional muscle memory. So when pressure spikes, I'm not going to crack. I'm going to revert to saying the lyrics. Right, I'm going to start singing. I can't sing them like you sing them, of course, Andy. But are you following? Like this is a huge thing, and that's what we teach, and that's part of. It sounds so silly, but I'm telling you, it works when you build these habits and you run those neural. Now it helped you, but now you're helping other people, right? So it helped you to go through the process of writing and creating the music and the feeling and the emotion. But now it's helping me, and now I'm adopting it in part of my habit stack for my own inner armor. Now, and I'm serious about this. I know, like, oh, you're just talking great about my music. I'm very picky about what I read, what I listen to, what I watch, and what music, because music, it has that earworm ability, right? It's got that thing that gets stuck inside you. So you have to be very careful of what you're putting in there, because you can end up with a, with a lyric that is not helping you. Do you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah.
So I don't want to talk about all my favorite bands, but I love all the chord progressions and the simplicity and the bluesy sound of like AC/DC. But, Highway to Hell, I had to change to Highway to Health in my mind. You know what I mean? Sure. Because it's like, you found that, I'm like, so that's what I hear now. I'm like, no, it's Highway to Health. What are you getting a bar fight over? No, it's Highway to Health, man. I'm telling you. Right. So that's kind of really digging deep into, but that's what we do every day, and we're working it into what we're already doing. So I'm not teaching anybody anything they don't do, or just pointing it in a direction that helps us instead of hurts us. Does that make sense?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, these habit stacks, how do you coach somebody to get rid of a habit that's getting in their way?
So this is what the conventional wisdom is, that I need to stop a habit. I don't ever stop a habit. I'm not going to stop a habit. What I'm going to do is replace it with a better habit. Mm-hmm. So first off, this is an interesting thing. So when I'm on the podium, I always ask, how long does it take to build a habit? The conventional, 21 days or whatever. I'm like, nope, it takes as soon as you're comfortable, because if I do a 2-day training, Andy, where's everybody going to sit on day 2?
They're going to sit in exactly the same place.
And they're going to park at the same place. And don't let somebody be in your parking spot, because you're going to be mad, right? And then the lunch day, right? So building a habit takes until you're comfortable. So as soon as you get comfortable doing this, you're going to let go of that. If you're trying to stop this, it's just going to be, don't think of an elephant. And now I'm thinking of an elephant. So instead of, I got to stop doing that, you just keep repeating doing it, because your brain chops off the stop and whatever's, so you're just going to keep doing. So we don't want to even try to stop habits. I never tell anybody to stop them. I'm just going to start a new thing that'll replace it without you even knowing about it. Like you'll just immediately it'll go away without you even thinking about it, because you replaced it with a better habit. And that's all we do. So people get mad at me because I'm not even going to mention whatever people are like, well, I got to stop this. And I'm like, I don't want to hear about it, man. Don't even worry about that. Just come as you are. I'm not going to talk about all those things that aren't healthy for you. And we see that a lot on social media, where we're talking about the negative, this is bad, that's bad, this, let's just make the best choice that we can make, because all you're doing is adding to stress. When you're telling me that there's bad things in the plastic container that my food comes in, but every food container has that plastic in it, is there anything I can do about it? Then I need to stop worrying about it, right? If you want to, go on an activist, that's fine, but you have to control what you can control, which is your response, and make the best choice that you can make. So I don't like to get in onto the negative side of things, because that's where your brain camps out. I just between you and me and whoever's listening, right? So I have these to go on these bigger podcasts, right? They want me to talk about my firefights and the combat and all that. I'm like, I'm not doing that again. It took me a long time to get over like to go change PTSD for PTG. And all you're doing is trying to exploit me, right? And that's what they're trying to do when you hear these like these SEALs and stuff. They get on and they tell their story. You're running that neurological loop over and over. Listen, man, I lost enough sleep seeing what I saw. I'm not trying to rebuild that loop. And I just let the grass grow over it. I'm not going to clear that path out again. And I'm not going to do it for money. I'm not going to do it for you. I'm not going to, it took me a long time so that my kids like me. I mean, not love me, but they like me. They like to be around me. That took a lot of work, man. I'm not giving it up for anything. You know what I mean?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So let's talk about the balancing act, which is mental resilience. I presume that you can't exhibit resilience 24/7. So how do you recharge? How do you reset? How do you advise others to do that work?
Yeah, I do want to say resilience is 24/7 because it's just who I am. The book is called Perpetual Resilience, right? So it's just like perpetual, right? So if I don't think of it as something that I have to do, right? These systems
so it's not
that I've built
on or off.
No, it's just who I am, man. I have perpetual resilience. I don't have to bounce back around because everything in my system is like, so, but for the balancing act, which I love the actual, the title of the show, and it's in a lot of your music too, right? How do we balance, right? So, and that's when I wrote the parenting book, I think at the end of the last chapter I wrote was on this, is that the greatest compliment as a parent that I ever received was that people would say that my kids are so balanced. Right. Yeah. And I was like, okay, I'm doing a good job. Right. The kids are balanced. Right. Because, if they weren't, they would be saying, these, wild with his hair on fire. He likes going fast or they're just super smart, but they're not balanced. Right. So so I have these 8 cylinders that I broke my life down into. And I could, the spiritual cylinder, which is my identity. Who am I when everything's stripped away? My physical health, my mental health, my emotional health, social health, right. Harmonious relationships, my professional health. How do I advance in my career? Then financial health. And then at the end, cultural health. How am I affecting the culture, right? So a lot of people just want to go to the financial cylinder and they don't fix some of the other things. And so now you're out of balance. Or you just go to, like, I know dudes that, at the gym, they're like ripped and shredded, but they can't rub 2 nickels together or buy you lunch because so they have physical health, but they don't, so, and then, so the balancing act for resilience is that all 8 of these cylinders, I have to do the audit, right? I'm doing an audit 1 to 10, no 7s allowed because 7s is the cop out, right? Where am I at on each of these cylinders? And when I start to feel like I'm stalled, I'll look at them and then re-engage in that cylinder because I just read, popped up on one of my social media feeds, an article that was written about me in U.S. News, 2017. And it's evergreen because I looked at all these things and I'm like, I forgot I even said some of these things, but it slips. Things slip if you don't stay diligent and consistent with it, right? So that's what I want to do is just keep checking my cylinders to make sure I'm not out of balance. Does that make sense? But I mean, I don't want to think of resilience as I'm on or I'm off. Resilience is this whole system of, I can handle anything that life throws my way, but because I'm spiritually healthy, I'm physically healthy, I'm mentally healthy, I'm emotionally healthy, socially healthy, professionally healthy. That's another one, right? A lot of guys don't. We go into corporate. I'm be like, look, guys, if you just spend, and this is right up, Kaplan's alley. If you just spend half an hour a night reading in your profession, where would that put you in 5 years? Because nobody's doing that. Like, stop doom scrolling the social media and start reading whatever the newest thing is. I mean, and train yourself again. Well, I'm bored. Well, stop saying I'm bored. Say I love it. Right. My daughter, when she came home, she was in 1st grade. She's like, oh, math is hard. I'm like, nope, math is easy and science is great. That's what you say from now on. And now she's a biomedical engineer and she's in as an undergrad, she was in a graduate research program. She's working at the lab there. They're working on cancer cells. I mean, this is right because I'm just going to change how you even think and talk about this thing. And no, you're not bored. It's super exciting. You should be passionate about what you do, no matter what level you are doing it. Right. Yeah. You should be the best. I was talking to a guy, yesterday, he wanted to go to poker dealer school. And I thought, that is awesome. And I thought immediately my brain goes, okay, so I would have to go if I'm going to do this, I could be at the top, but I want to be the guy that's at the World Series of Poker, that dealer on ESPN. How do I get to that level? Like immediately, that's what I'm thinking. Because in everything, whether poker dealer, it could be sanitation engineer or, corporate HR, whatever it is, tech. I use the police chief example. there's like the LAPD chief and then NYPD chief. And then there's like, Pumpkin Town, South Carolina police chief. We're all police chiefs and we're on the police chief association. But the one at Pumpkin Town, who has himself and one other officer, even though they have the title police chief, is not done the work to get to where the NYPD police chief is, or Philadelphia police chief, or DC police. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
But everybody's a police chief. So that's why I hear like, oh, I'm a coach. I'm a, speaker. Oh, there's so many levels to this. Like, so, and that's your professional cylinder. Let's get to work. What if I do it for an hour a night, and I would coach you to do it for an hour. But even if it was a half an hour, if you can only stand 15 minutes, do it 15 minutes before you stop doom scrolling the social media and worrying about what's going on everywhere, and become an expert in what you're doing. And that makes you more resilient.
Yeah, I love the fact you're talking about how we talk to ourselves.
Yes,
and we talk so negatively to ourselves. We're our own worst critic. We're inside our own heads, giving ourselves crap all the time. And if we just give ourselves a bit of grace and the opportunity to improve and commit to lifelong learning and a continuous improvement practice. That's I see that just really strongly in the soup that you're creating for us here.
Yes, and that's why I said you and I were. I align with what your mission is. I mean, it's so aligned, and that is you're building resilience in without you even thinking of it. And I mean, like Sam Altman, right? The ChatGPT guy. What is he? OpenAI. He just said resilience is the most important skill you could have, and we say that. But no one even knows what it means, and we don't know how to get it. So my life's mission is to teach you how to do it, because it doesn't matter. If you're a human, the stuff that I'm teaching works, and it'll make your life infinitely better. Like 1 is infinitely better than 0, right? Right, we know that, right? So you might not be going from, I'll be a Hall of Famer, but look, Babe Ruth was a Hall of Famer, and he struck out like twice as much as he hit home runs.
Right. Yep. So Andrew, what have we not discussed today that's just essential for listeners to take away?
Yeah, resilience is not a personality based thing. It's not genetic. It doesn't come from you're not born with it or not born with it. It's not even emotional strength. It's just doing the reps and training yourself to who you want to be. You decide who you want to be. You engineer that and just train it over and over again. And just like you're driving a car. So I want people to you don't need to be tougher. You don't need to be like, I'm going to grit this out, and then no, you just need to be trained, man. And you don't even need any more time than you have. You're already doing it. You're just training it in the wrong direction. We're just going to make a couple tweaks, and it will literally transform your life.
Yeah. Very cool. We're going to do some lightning round questions, but where can folks get a hold of you?
Yeah, my website is getwarriortough.com/podcast for all your listeners. So that's the best place to introduce to get into what I'm doing. It's getwarriortough.com/podcast.
All right, excellent. So a little fun now. 3 lightning round questions. Number 1, you just won $100 million lotto jackpot, but you got to share 50% of your net winnings with a philanthropic organization or a general cause. Who do you pick?
Yeah, and I'm just going to say I probably do 90% because we're already doing this. My sons and I, right, we're training indigenous leaders across developing nations, right? So, especially places where spiritual, economic, and community leadership intersect. We're training the trainers. So I train trainers via Facebook and the internet from other countries. So in Nigeria, the boys and I spearheaded. We built a school for orphans that could not read and write. So when the terrorist Boko Haram or whatever killed the mom and dad, the orphans go to Abuja and they're in government housing, but they don't do any schooling. So we had this school. We built a school. It takes 180 kids, and we take them from K to 12, teach them how to read and write and all that. So we're doing that. We did that. It's good. I want to keep it going. We're doing one in Uganda right now, where we're doing economic development with agriculture, right? Pig farming and beekeeping. Which it raises the level of all we're teaching business, we're teaching leadership, right? Community, all the stuff that we teach here in America, I'm teaching there, but they suck it up like a sponge, right? And I'm telling you, 10 grand there is like spending 10 million here, right? Yeah. So it goes so far. And then we're doing one in Kenya. I have a student in Kenya that's doing biosands for clean water. and we're getting clean water to as many homes in as many villages as we can. Because then if you're not worrying about clean water, it frees you up to do your professional cylinder or anything, learn a skill and to be economically, independent. So that's what I would probably put, because I'm honestly after 10 million, I mean, what do we need? I mean, I would put the 90 to this thing, because I mean, how many toys can I buy? You know what I mean?
For sure.
All right. That wasn't lightning, but that was fun.
Yeah. Number two, I give you a small time machine. You can send a message to an earlier version of Andrew Wittman. What's the message and what previous version do you send it to?
Yeah, I send it back to that 22-year-old Marine Corps sergeant yelling orders at my wife, trying to control everything around me. Hey, look, man, we don't, the struggle is not to control everything external, because that's what I did, control the people, control the environment, just control yourself, right? So just lean into controlling you and all the internals and let the externals go. Stop getting, wound up about things you can't control. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely. Great advice. Now, lastly, we're all works in progress. What are you focused on right now in growing the next great version of Andrew Wittman? Yeah.
And so I've done all my cylinders that I talked about in order, right? And the last one for me that I've kept, it was just the one that I wanted to be all the other things in place is my cultural cylinder. So like I spent decades building this resilience for me and my family and my client. Now I'm trying to make a massive impact on the culture with this inner armor. I'm trying to affect the culture, right? So that's what the cultural cylinder is. Like with the remainders, you're affecting the culture, right? With the remainders, and you're doing it in a way that moves the needle. I mean, you move the needle, and you might not hear it, but you move the needle for me, right? So, and if I'm just the one guy that you're giving, I know there's hundreds of others that it did move the needle for, right? So that's what I want to do with Inner Armor. I want to move the needle for organizations. I say people are in organizations, but organizations are all the people that are working or not working together, right? Whether they're engaged or they're not engaged. If we can get at that level at the organization, maybe they can take it home with them. That's the goal. Yeah.
Well, Andrew, you've been a fantastic guest, and I'm certain that our listeners have learned just a ton from you today. Thank you so much for being here. I'm so glad that we've met.
Yeah, me too. Thank you so much for having me, Andy. It's just you're a great American, sir. You're a great American. Thank you.
Thank you. My name is Andy Temte. This is the Balancing Act podcast. You can find us on all the major streaming services as well as out on YouTube. Please like, subscribe, rate, and most importantly, share this public good with your friends, your neighbors, your colleagues, maybe a family member as well. Show is produced by Nicholas Temte, and we'll see you next time on the Balancing Act.